What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Team Fish Knuckles YouTube channel. Today is the Franklin City Championship Top 4. Now, this is day number 3 of the Tennessee Championship. And on our left, we have David, and on our right, we have Andrew. We haven't really seen any of these players yet. In top 8, we saw Alex Haas versus Drew Kane. We saw Alex beat Drew in the basically sudden death. And let's see what happens here. I'm not sure what either one of these players are playing, and I think David is going first. He put a coin on his side, and usually that means he is going first, and he does have a Gardevoir, so we will see a Mega Gardevoir deck. Alright, each player gets 6 prize cards, and let's see what happens. Now, Gardevoir has an attack called Brilliant Arrow, I'm pretty sure. It does 30 damage times the amount of fairy energy on your side of the field. And here we go. We started the game, and we see Rami start a Bunnelby and David start the Gardevoir. Alrighty. Are they starting, or are they not sure what's happening? Maybe they're just talking about their openers. Oh, okay. I'm not sure what happened, but we see David does play Ramble Energy, so he does play something else besides the Guardy. He does have the regular Fairy Energy as well in his hand, and the Fairy Energy to give his Pokemon Fairy Retreat. And if you haven't seen Andrew's deck, I actually did a video of it. It's the Houndoom Crawdaunt deck, and you can see he just started the Bunnelby. We see it Fairy Energy go down to the active. We see a EXP share and a Sycamore. And he does get the Spritzy. He could get the Aromatisse out next turn. We're going to see an Ultra Ball, discarding a Fairy Garden and a Sycamore, and getting a Xerneas. Now, with the Xerneas, it does have a attack called Geomancy. You can search your deck for 2 Fairy Energies and put those onto 2 of your bench Pokemon. We see a treat because of the Fairy Garden, and onto Andrew's turn. We see a Crushing Hammer, Tails. He does have a Bunnelby. We see a Shaman drawn up to 6. Trick Shovel, discarding the Guardy Spirit Link. And we see a Trick Shovel, discarding a Fairy Energy. And a Birch from Rami. Let's see what happens. And all he gets Tails. It's only 4 cards from this Birch, but you do have to risk it to get the Biscuit. But this time around, only get 4 cards with the Birch. And don't worry, I know it's hard to see those cards on Rami's side of the field. It was just a bad glare, and I'm sorry about that. But that is a Bunnelby in the active and a Shaman on the bench. And that Bunnelby does have a Fire Energy, and it can use Burrow, discard the top card of your opponent's deck. And it does have the trait to attack twice. And here we go, 4 cards. And alrighty, there we see a Super Scoop Up trying to pick up Shebe, and heads to pick up the Shaman. He could put it back down to draw 2 more cards if he wants to. He does have a Hard Charm as well. We're going to see the Hard Charm going to Bunnelby. Shaman drawn up to 4. Oh, 4. The other one was 3 beforehand. And I bet you he was looking for a Crush Hammer, but there we see a double Rototiller, discarding a Spritzy and a Lysander. A Fairy Energy going on to the active, and we're going to see a Geomancy put 2 Fairy Energies, 1 on Spritzy and 1 onto the Gardevoir. We're going to see a Xerosic discarding the EXP share off the Guardy, and here comes a Headringer, and we see an Ultra Ball from Rami, discarding an Ultra Ball and something else. Now, this is where the matchup is going to get kind of hard for Rami because, David's going to be able to search out all of his energies, and I don't know how Rami can discard all these energies to win the game. And we see another Shaman coming down from Andrew. And let's see what happens. Imagine he's looking for some Hand Hammers. There we see, not Hand Hammer, Crush Hammers. We see a Trick Shovel, discarding a Megaphone. We see a Super Scoop Up, heads, picking up Shebe. And Rami doesn't have a Houndoom out yet, which is bad because, this Bunnelby can easily be knocked out. We see Shaman drawn up to 6 new cards. Because Gardevoir has an attack, Shining Wind. During your opponent's next turn, the defending Pokemon has no weakness, but it does do 100 damage. We can knock out Bunnelby. We see another Fairy Energy going down, and we see another Geomancy. Going to get 2 more energies into play. There's 1 on the Guardy and 1 on the Spritzy. And next turn, that Guardy can attack. And there we see Houndoom coming down as well, getting a Fire Energy. We could see a Melting Horn. And let's see what Andrew decides to do. We see a Verse Seeker. He could grab a Birch, and that's what he does. And heads. Alrighty, so he gets 7 cards there. We haven't seen a Corphish come down either, which is what Rami really wants to guarantee those cards, those energies being discarded. Because Crawdaunt automatically discarded energy off the active. And I'm going to see 7 cards come down for Rami. That's a great 7 for sure. And there's the Corphish I was talking about. Alrighty. And let's see what Rami does. Let's see if he's going to retreat to Houndoom. Nope. He's just going to attack using double Burrow. And we're going to see a Aromatisse and a Mega Guardy. Alright, so Mega Guardy comes down, and that Mega Guardy does have Brilliant Arrow. There we see a Crush Hammer discarding a Fairy Energy. and it does 30 times the amount of fairy energy in play. There's 36, 9, 12, 15, or 5. Wait, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, 5, which is 150 damage. There we see a Houndoom come down. We see a Super Scoop Up. Heads, gonna pick up Shaman. Gonna probably put down the Shaman once again. Probably look for another Crushing Hammer and or a Crawdaunt. At this moment, it really doesn't matter what Rami discards the energy from, because David has that Aromatizzi, which allows him to move the energies any way he wants. And we see another Crushed Hammer. Tails. And let's see what Rami decides to do. He could retreat into the Houndoom and use Melting Horn, but no, we're going to see Double Burrow, discarding a Malamar and a Judge. And here we see Gardevoir come down, and we're going to see a Brilliant Arrow knocking out this Bunnelby. Alrighty, and on to Rami's turn. You'll probably send the Houndoom EX, which has 170 HP with the Hard Charm. Here we see a Crawdaunt discarding a Fairy Energy. And there we see a Super Scoop Up, trying to pick up the Crawdaunt, I imagine. Nope, going to pick up that Shaman and reuse it. I was going to, maybe he doesn't have a supporter card in his hand. I was going to say, you can pick up the Corphish and reuse Crawdaunt to discard another energy. Here we see an AZ, and that will pick up the Crawdaunt, putting the Corphish back down onto the field. And we see a Melting Horn discarding a Guardy and something else. And let's see what David decides to do. It's going to put a Rainbow Energy onto that Xerneas. And we'll see a Fairy Transfer. We see a Burst Seeker. And let's see what he decides to get. A Lysander. And he can Lysander up a Shaman and knock it out. Take a free knockout. We'll do 3, 6, 9, 12, 15. So that is a knockout on Shaman EX. Here we see Crawdaunt coming down. And let's see. Probably discard the Rainbow Energy. Nope. He's going to discard the Fairy Energy. I might actually go for the Rainbow Energy. But there we see a Team Flagrant coming down. And let's see what Rami decides to do. He's going to discard a Fairy Energy. Maybe Rami knows he has a Enhanced Hammer in his deck and he wants to discard the Rainbow with the Fairy Energy. We see a Sideshow get discarded. We see a Fairy Energy transfer. We see a Energy Attachment and a Lysander bringing up Shebe, taking another knockout and going down to 1 prize card. We see a Fire Energy go down to Houndoom, and Rami is in trouble. It is 1 prize card left, and David has, looks like 20 cards left in his deck. Maybe a little bit less than that, but definitely more than 10, less than 20. We'll see what happens. All David needs next turn is another energy and a Lysander if Rami can discard an energy. But if he can't discard an energy, all David needs is a Lysander, bring up that Crawdaunt, and taking a knockout. And we're going to see a Verse Seeker grabbing the AZ, picking up the Crawdaunt. And we're going to see Melting Horn discarding a Guardy and an EXP share. And this makes it where David can't take a knockout right now. 3, 6, 9, 12, 15. Alrighty. And we'll see 130 damage come down. There's 6, 12, and one more damage counter. There we go. So 130 come down because of the Hard Charm doing minus 20. So 150 minus 20 is 130. And let's see what Rami decides to do here. He does have an Ultra Ball. He could discard some 2 cards. Maybe look for, I don't know if he wants another Shaman. Well, regardless, he wants to pick up this Houndoom EX from being knocked out and promote the new one. Here we see an Ultra Ball discarding Crawdaunt and something else. And let's see what he decides to get. Okay, another Houndoom EX, alrighty. And like I said, Rami will need like a Super Scoop Up or an AZ to pick up this Houndoom for making him not lose his game. We've seen Houndoom come down. The Sycamore discarding his hand, drawing 7 new cards. And what can he get? Does he get some way? We see a Trick Shovel discarding a Professor Birch Full Art. And David's actually counted Rami's deck. Maybe he thinks that Rami's going to deck out first. And there we see an Energy Attachment, Retreat, Super Rod, getting back 3 Fire Energies back into the deck. And let's see what happens. Does David have the license to bring up that Houndoom EX or not? It's the big question. We see a Melting Horn discarding 2 cards. We see a Rainbow Energy, and we'll see a Brilliant Arrow. Just knock out the Houndoom. It does 180 damage. And on to game number 2. And like I said, this is a hard matchup for Andrew because, you know, the Xerneas just lets you search your energies out. Once you get the Mega Guardy out, how do you deal with something just hitting you over and over again for 150 for, you know, 5 energies? No, 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, yeah, 5. And with 6 in play, you're doing 180, which is not that hard to get out with with the Xerneas, and you do have the Aromatizzi and you move around your energies. So this will be a we'll see what happens game number 2. Anything can happen here at the City Championship in Franklin. And it's, you know, 2 interesting decks for sure. I mean, we see a Guardy deck, which we really don't see anymore, and a Houndoom deck, unless you watch yesterday's episode, or the last day, the Madison, we actually saw a Houndoom make the finals and lose in the finals So maybe a Houndoom will make cut again. Maybe a Guardy will make cut again. For the past 2 days, two different decks have won this championship, so it'll be pretty cool to see a new deck win as well. But we're going to see shuffle it up for game number 2, and we'll see what happens. All right, so everybody shuffles up here. Gonna get some prize cards and some cards in your hand, and let's see what happens. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It doesn't seem like David has a Xerneas turn 1, which that's what he really wants, to start using a Xerneas Geomancy. But there we see a Guardy come down and a Houndoom from Rami. We see a Fire Energy go down to Houndoom. And he does have an AZ. He has an Ultra Ball. We can see an Ultra Ball discarding Lysander and the AZ. Putting the AZ in the discard pile is a great early game, because then you can just first seek it for the AZ to pick up a Corphish, a Shaman, and I'm not sure what he grabbed. It looked like it was a blue card, so maybe a Corphish. Just give him a second, and I can tell when he puts his hand over the light. Once again, I apologize for the glare. I'm sorry about that. And it is a Corphish. There we go. With the end of the Houndoom come down, and Rami must already have a supporter card in his hand or a Shaman. Just a Sycamore, discarding his hand, draw 7 new cards. Like I said, if he didn't have a supporter card, he would have grabbed a Shebe. And he does have another Corphish, or 2 Corphish come down, another Bunnelby, or a Bunnelby, a Headringer onto that Guardy as Hard Charm, and that's a great turn 1 from Rami, getting down 2 Corphish. And on to David's turn, and oh, there's the Xerneas that he wants turn 1, but he does have an AZ picking up the Xerneas, putting down the Guardy, putting down the Spritzy. And we will see a Geomancy getting 2 energies in play. So very strong. Both players have very strong opening turn 1s. And he's going to put 1 energy on the Gardevoir and 1 energy on the Spritzy. There we go. He was just counting to see how many energies are in his deck. We see a Fire Energy going on to Bunnelby. And let's see what Rami decides to do here. Andrew Rami. You're going to hear me call his name differently. But there we see a Verse Seeker for Sycamore, discarding his hand, drawing 7 new cards. He does have a Crush Hammer. And he's going to try to discard out the active, but nope, Tails. Crawdaunt, discarding the energy of the active. Trick Shuffle, discarding a Gardevoir EX. And a Mega Gardevoir, sorry. We see a Bunnelby drawn up to 6, and a Headringer coming down as well onto that Guardy. And we see a Melting Horn, discarding 2 cards. And he discarded a Manectric and a Guardy. But David has another Fairy Energy in his hand, and he can put a Fairy Energy onto the Guardy and 1 onto the Spritzy. There we go. And on to Andrew's turn. Let's see what happens. We'll see a Fire Energy go down a Houndoom. And he does have a Sycamore. He'll play the Sycamore, discarding sand, draws 7 new cards. I imagine he's looking for a Crawdaunt. Now, David hasn't played a supporter card yet. I don't know if this is because he doesn't have a supporter card in his hand, or if he's trying to hold on to it because he doesn't want to play supporter cards, because he really doesn't need to, as long as he has energies. And there we see a Fairy Garden and a Shaman EX being discarded. And we're going to see a Evo Soda, and this will get out of Aromatisse, and that way he can start using the Fairy Transfer if he wants to. But let's see if David will keep Geomancing or not. I imagine he will keep Geomancing. We see a Fairy Garden and a Sycamore, discarding his hand, drawing 7 new cards. He's probably looking for another Guardy to come out, but it doesn't seem like he got one. He does have a Rainbow in his hand. We see an EXP share going down to the Aromatisse. And he does have the Rainbow Energy. I don't think he's attached to energy per turn yet. There's a Rainbow Energy going out to Guardy. And we will see a retreat into the Guardy. And he's actually going to use Guardy's second attack. I'm not sure what it's called off the top of my head. It does do 100 damage. And onto Raymond's turn. It only does 80 because of that Hard Charm, which is kind of annoying. But we see Crush Hammer heads. And he's probably going to discard a Fairy Energy. Fairy Energy. He's gonna. I think Rami plays Enhanced Hammer, so you can just discard those Rainbow Energies automatically if he chooses so. Now, Andrew can use Verse Seeker for an AZ, pick up the Crawdaunt, and putting it back down to discard the energy off the active, and basically 2 energies out of play. But David can still attack the following turn because he can use Fairy Transfer. And Rami's gonna look. There's discard pile. So many energies are in there, but he's gonna go for the AZ play, discarding energy off the active, discarding a Fairy Energy. And let's see what Andrew decides to do. There's a Melting Horn, discarding a Guardy and a Seismitoad. Now, David does have another Rainbow Energy in his hand that he can put down. And let's see what he decides to do. We see a Rainbow Energy going out to the active. And he does have a Birch. And I do like the Birch play rather than Verse Seeking for a Sycamore. And Tails, because if you play the Sycamore, you're discarding the cards in your hand. But with the Birch, you're shuffling it in there. And he did get Tails, so that's the only downside. He does have an Ultra Ball, so you could get out a Mega Guardy if he has one left in the deck, but, hold on. How did the Houndoom get knocked out? Very confused. Maybe, not sure. how the Houndoom get out, because I thought Shining Wind did 100. And then 100 times 2 is 200, but then every turn you do 80. They probably, I don't, maybe I missed something. I'm not sure how the Houndoom got knocked out. Maybe it didn't have a hard charm and I was just seeing things. But we see a fire just go down to Shaman EX. If I missed something, let me know. But we see a Shaman drawn up to 6. We see an Enhanced Hammer discarding a Rainbow Energy. We see a Team Flare Gun discarding a Fairy Energy. And we see another Melting Horn. Or is that a Bunnelby? I think it might be a Bunnelby, actually. But here we see an Ultra Ball discarding 2 cards. And let's see what David decides to get. He does have Florges in his deck as well. Now, Florges does only need 2 energies. And it does 20 times the amount of Pokemon in play, or Fairy Pokemon in play, I think is what it does. We see a Fairy Energy and a Rainbow Energy getting transferred up to it. And there's Rami looking at the card, seeing what it does. And it does knock out the Bunnelby, so that was a Bunnelby in the active spot. We see a Headringer going out to the Florges. We see another Houndoom, Fire Energy, and a Sycamore discarding his hand, drawing 7 new cards. And let's see what Rami decides to do. We see 3 Trick Shovels. Oh my goodness. Alright. And we see Super Scoop Up. He's probably going to try to pick up the Crawdaunt heads. And he's going to pick up the Shaman. Okay. I guess he's looking for, I don't know. Okay, there's another Crawdaunt discarding another energy. And David might be out of energies. There's only 2 on the field. He does have 1 in hand, so he can attach another energy. And he'll be okay. He can start using Florges' attack once again. And he does have a Rainbow Energy as well. Let's see what David decides to go for. I'm still kind of confused on how the Houndoom got knocked out by the Guardy, because I think it had a head ring, not a head ring, or a Heart Charm. Let me check Guardy real quick. Yeah, Guarding says Shining Wind 100 during your opponent's next turn. This Pokemon has no weakness. So I'm not sure how it got knocked out, unless I missed something, like I said. But here we see some Fairy transfers, going to put the energies onto the active, and we'll see a Florges attack for 60. It only does 80, but then it does 80, but minus 20, because 20, 40, 60, 80, because there's 4 Fairy Pokemon to play, but the minus 20 because of Hard Charm. And we see a Melting Horn from Rami, and he does play a Flare Gun as well, and we see another Rainbow coming down. And how many energies are left in David's deck? It's the real question. He's getting kind of low. For sure, Rami has discarded a bunch, and we'll see another Florges attack for another 80 damage. And next turn, he can knock him out Florges. They will see a Xerosic discarding a Rainbow Energy, and now it comes down to does David have another energy left in his deck? And we'll see for sure. And he's going to draw a card. There's a Verse Seeker. He's going to License to bring up this Crawdaunt, and that usually means that he doesn't have an energy left. He could have used a Birch, but we will see a Retreat. And we'll see a Spritzy come up, and we'll see Spritzy actually attack for 10 damage. Or maybe not. We see a Fire Energy going out to the active, and David's going to look through Rami's discard pile, and we're going to see David draw a card. And let's see what happens. David does have another Verse Seeker to bring up a Crawdaunt if Rami does retreat it. So we'll see what happens. We'll probably see a pass from David. I don't think he has any Fairy Energies left in hand. There we see a retreat from the Crawdaunt, sending the Houndoom, and we'll see a Melting Horn. Discarding a Judge and a Guarded Spirit Link, and on a Davis turn, like I said, I think I saw another Verse Seeker in his hand. He's going to Verse Seeker, bring up the Crawdaunt once again, and we're going to see a Mega Gardevoir on to Rami's turn. He does have the Verse Seeker, and he can AZ pick up this Crawdaunt, and that'll basically, it won't secure him the game, but it'll be very close. We'll see it AZ, pick up the Crawdaunt, set up the Houndoom, put another Corphish down, and we'll see a Melting Horn discarding 2 cards. Does David have one more Verse Seeker or not? He needs it right now, or he'll lose to his Melting Horn. And no, he doesn't have another Verse Seeker. So we will go to game number 3. Alrighty, so that was a crazy game number 2. It looked like David had it in the bag, but he did run out of energies. Rami did discard a bunch of energies that game. Alrighty, so on to game number 3. It seems like Houndoom can beat the Guardy deck, even though it seems like it's a very, very hard matchup. Somehow Rami did it. He did deck out the Guardy player. We saw David not really get a Mega Guardy out until very, very late into the game, and that's not good at all, because you want to get the Mega Guardy out, by turn 4 or 5, and that way you can just start one-shotting the Houndooms over and over again, and Rami can't really discard that many energies that quickly unless he gets really, really lucky. Oh, some Crushing Hammerheads, which could happen as well. But we'll see what happens. This is game number 3. I imagine David will go first. And can he start with the Xerneas this game or not? And not have to waste an AZ on it. But even though he wasted an AZ on it, it wasn't that big of a deal. Rami did have to use the bathroom real quick, and that's why he's back. Alrighty. And we'll see what happens game number 3. Do you want the Houndoom deck to win, or do you want the Guardy deck to win? Not sure. We'll find out here in a second. Both players are shuffling up. And it'll be game number 3. Now time kind of does impact game number 3, because whoever's up on prizes does win the game. So David could win the game if times get called, because Ramey's really not going to take any prizes. He's just going to, try to mill out his opponent as fast as he can. While David, he's the only real person attacking. All right, so we'll see what happens on game number 3. Houndoom versus Gardevoir. All right, so 7 cards. And let's see, does David start with that Xerneas? I'm not sure what that is. He does have a Shaman in his hand. And like I said, I imagine David will go first. And let's see what happens. There's another Guardy. And we see a Houndoom as well from Ramy. All right, let's see what happens. There's another Guardy coming down. Shaman drawing 1 card. David does have an Ultra Ball, discarding a Sycamore and a Lysander. He has a Verse Seeker in his hand, so you can Verse Seeker for another Sycamore. And let's see what David decides to do. If he does have a Malamar. Now, this Malamar is actually pretty crucial, because Malamar has the ability. I'm not sure what the ability is called, I'm not going to lie to you. But when you attach an energy to it, it puts the active Pokemon to sleep already. I know the attack is Maximar, because I love saying Maximar and just flipping a bunch of coins. Then we see a Xerneas come down. We see a Fairy Energy going out to the down onto the Malamar, putting the Houndoom to sleep, and onto Ramy's turn. Heads, he's going to wake up this Houndoom. And let's see what Ramy does. He has a Fire Energy. Alrighty. And we see a Shaman, drawn 1 card. We see a Super Scoop Up. Heads, picking up a Shaman, drawn 1 more card. And he does have a Birch, so we'll see a Birch, and let's see what does the Birch get Ramy, and it does look like it's a heads. I think that is a Delphox, so it looks like he'll get 7 cards. And Ramy is looking for some head ringers to put on these Gardevoirs before they get some Spirit Links. If they get the Spirit Links, then David can evolve without ending his turn. But if there's a head ring on it, then it does end his turn when he does evolve. And the ability is called Hyper Hypnosis on Malamar. There we go. Alright, so let's see what does Ramy get. He gets a Hard Charm onto the Houndoom. We see a Question Hammer, heads, discarding the Fairy Energy. A Bumblebee comes down. Shaman drawing 4 more cards, sorry. Can never see how many cards are in their hand. And we'll probably see a Melting Horn. Ramy does have a Super Scoop Up, but nope, we're going to see a Melting Horn. Discarding a Verse Seeker and a Fairy Energy. Alright. And we're going to see a Rainbow Energy, put the Houndoom back to sleep. And we see a Birch from David. Now, David is looking for a Spritzy to try to get that Aromatisse, but he only gets Tail, so only 4 cards with this Birch. It seems like both players are opting to play Birch instead of Shauna, and I am a fan of that instead of the Shauna. But let's see what these 4 cards gets him. He does get the Spritzy, which is great, and we're going to see a pass from David. Now, David, this Houndoom does wake up as well, so Ramy can start using, Team Flare Grunt, not Team Flare Grunt, he can start using Melting Horn. We see Enhanced Hammer discarding the Rainbow Energy. We see a Fire Energy coming down to Bumblebee. And David needs an Aromatisse and a Fairy Garden next turn to start using Geomancy. Usually you want to start Geomancy by turn 1, but we haven't seen it this game. Ramy does have a Lysander. He does have a Verse Seeker. We're going to see Lysander bringing up Malamar. And we're going to see 2 cards being discarded. Another Fairy Energy gets discarded off the Melting Horn. And there we see another energy going to the active. And the Houndoom does wake up. Alrighty. And we see that Ramy Lysander up the Malamar. And maybe he did this because if he draws in Team Flare Grunt, he can play it and discard the energy off the active. But they receive a Verse Seeker for a Birch, but only get 4 Tails, only 4 cards for Ramy. And let's see what happens. Now, once again, Ramy does need these Head Ringers onto these Gardevoirs, making it where David ends his turn when he evolves. So there's 4 cards. He has a Trick Shovel, discarding another Fairy Energy, and a Fairy Garden as well. Oh no, that's so many cards discarded. There's a, okay, so he gets a Rainbow Energy, he gets a, starting Megaphone, sorry about that, discarding all the tools in play from his opponent's side of the field, and he gets a Judge as well. Alrighty, so let's see, what do these 4 cards get David? He does get a, Spirit Link and a Mega Guardian down. They receive a Maximar. It's going to do 120 damage because he did flip double heads. Maximar, you flip a coin for each energy on your opponent's on your Pokemon, and you do 60 times the amount of energies. And they receive, looks like Ramy playing as Xerosic, but he's trying to contemplate which one does he discard. Does he discard the special energy or the tool? And I do like the special energy being discarded. We see a Tails own the Crushing Hammer. We see an Ultra Ball from Rami. The big question is, does he have another Shaman in deck? And we see a pass. Alright, so he must not if he decided not to. And let's see what David does. He only has 3 cards in his hand. And he has an Ultra Ball discarding a Toad and a Fritzy getting down the Aromatisse. But David does not have a Fairy Garden to retreat this Malamar. But he can put the energy from the active Malamar onto his bench Xerneas and probably just pass from David. And let's see, does his Houndoom wake up? And it does. And so we can see a Melting Horn from this Houndoom. That looks like Rami drew into a Team Flare Gun, so he could have discarded energy last turn. But he played his Rosic regardless last turn. Let's see what he decides to do. He has a Headringer. And what he could do is Burst Seeker for Rosic and Headringer, that Gardevoir that is evolved. That could be a cool play. Let's see what he decides to do. He's contemplating where to put this Headringer. Maybe I'll put on the Malamar. It's going to put on the Guardy that doesn't have a link. And we're going to see a Versika for a Birch. It looks like Rami's going to decide to try to dig through his deck to try to grab another Crushing Hammer to discard the energy off the bench Xerneas, which I can't disagree with this play. He does get a heads, and let's see, does he get a Crushing Hammer or not? And I never seen a Houndoom. He does have a Team Flare Gun. He has a Fire Energy as well. There's a Corphish as well coming down, which is great. And we see a Melting Horn discarding a Sycamore. Oh no. Did David top deck another supporter card besides that? Okay, gets an AZ, picking up that guy, send up the Xerneas, and we will see a Geomancy getting 2 Fairy Energies into play. Alright, it only took David like 100 turns, but he's finally using Geomancy. We see Team Flare Gun discarding the Fairy Energy off the active, and we'll see another Melting Horn from Rami. And yep, there's a Sycamore and another Sycamore. So 3 Sycamores being discarded back to back. From David, he discarded 1 and then 2 more. Oh man, Rami's been hot on these Melting Horns. He did discard like a back-to-back energy 2 turns, and now he's discarded 3 Sycamores. David does have a Versieker. I bet he's trying to contemplate: is it worth playing the Versieker for Sycamore, or does he play a Judge or a Birch? We're gonna see a Versieker for a Birch. Looks like he actually wants to flip Tails, but he gets heads. Okay, they're trying to see does he actually shuffle or not. And if he was trying to flip Tails, well, maybe he did want to play Judge because he didn't want Rami to draw more cards. He does get a Malamar, so he could Fairy Energy, so he can attack this turn, and he gets a Fairy Garden. So he can start using the Gardevoir, but is it worth it? I'm not sure. We're going to see a Fairy Energy attached to the Malamar, put the Houndoom asleep, and he will knock out the Houndoom going down to 4 prize cards, and on to Rami's turn. He'll need some kind of way to discard an energy. There's a Sycamore. Does he get a Crawdaunt or a... there's Crawdaunt discarding an energy. Alright, and a Trick Shovel discarding a Fairy Garden and a Super Scoop Up. Looks like it's Tails. Oh no, Heads picking up Shaman EX. Putting a Corphish down, a Headringer onto Malamar. Shaman drawing 6 more cards, or up to 6 cards. And let's see what happens now. If David has... okay, if David has a Fairy Energy and a Lysander, he could knock out the Shaman. Oh, there's a Versieker. And it looks like David has 3 cards left in deck. And if he does not have a Versieker right now, I'm not sure how he's going to win this game. He's going to knock out a Bumblebee. Here comes a Houndoom. We're going to see... oh, that was okay, yeah, he knocks out a Bumblebee. Only taking 1 prize card. And yeah, David has 3 cards left in his deck. There will be a Melting Horn. It'll put David down to 1. He'll draw for his turn. And then he will deck out. And then we're seeing Ultra Ball for Rami. This will probably grab a Crawdaunt. And it looks like reward is... oh, maybe not. Maybe the other Crawdaunt's prize. Looks like he's eyeballing Houndoom instead. But it looks like Rami will win this game. One of the downsides of this game was that David didn't use Xerneas until turn like 5 or 6. Maybe even later than that. And by then, Rami had discarded so many cards already. So many energies were discarded. And I don't think David plays Super Rod. So once those energies hit the discard pile... they are gone forever. And here we see a Birch from Rami. And let's see what happens. And a Hez from Rami. Going to get 7 cards off this Birch. And Trick Shovel. And we see a Trick Shovel. And then Houndoom, Melting Horn, discarding 2 energies. And Rami will beat the Gardevoir deck, which is pretty surprising. You would think that the Gardevoir deck would have it. But there we go. We see Houndoom Crawdaunt take down the Gardevoir deck. Or Lord Plagueis, as Rami called it himself. Now, I do have a video of this deck. It is on one of the Rogue Tuesday decks. You can check back for it. But hopefully you enjoyed this video. This is the Franklin City Championship Top 4. There's 1 more games, and we will crown the winner. Is it going to be Houndoom? Or will it be the Entei deck? We did say Entei win in Top 8. But did it win a top 4 or not? I am not 100% sure. We'll find out in the next video. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching. Hit that subscribe button if you're not subscribed. Have a great day. Alrighty. Bye.